I still don't understand what he means by expired.
The young man you see here, bathed in the blinding lights of flashing cameras, surrounded by fans chanting his name, is XXXTentacion, a music rising star. He poured his heart out into his music, creating songs that resonated with fans who struggled with the same demons he sang about. His vulnerability, his honesty, and his willingness to speak his truth set him apart from other artists in the hip-hop world. But what no one could have predicted was that this brilliant tortured soul would have his life cut short. On June 18, 2018, at around 4:00 p.m., police would respond to a 911 call about multiple shootings at a store. But what they would discover was a tragic scene. They found 20-year-old XXXTentacion shot multiple times and left in his car. But what was even more shocking was the truth behind his murder. As investigators dug deeper into the crime, they uncovered a chilling plan. This story is eerily similar to a case I covered not too long ago. If you haven't watched it, I'll leave the link at the end of this video. Now let's look at the life and death of XXXTentacion.
Damn, Aiden, you won? No. Aiden, you won? Johnny's a traitor, bro. Johnny's a straight traitor. He's like, damn, I shouldn't have got involved.
Jesse Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy, popularly known as the music star XXXTentacion, was born on January 23, 1998 in Plantation, Florida, USA. He was healthy when he was born, but doctors soon discovered that he had a hole in his heart. While this condition didn't cause him problems as a child, it would play a part in the tragedy that followed later in his life. Jesse's early years were tough. He grew up in a Jamaican family where respect and tradition were very important. For a while, he split his time between his mother, Cleopatra, and his father, Dwayne's homes. But when his father had an affair, everything changed.
Jesse's dad would come sometimes, pick him up on the weekends. We would share him during holidays or summers and whatnot. He just didn't help us financially. I was 17 when I had him. In my case, I didn't have any support, so it's just me paying rent, paying all the bills, and having to work. And so Jesse was always with a babysitter or at daycare. I would say he was extremely spoiled, but I think he always felt alone. His father loved him, and he was present until he couldn't be. He got arrested after Jesse turned 10, and he got 10 years in prison. He hasn't physically saw him in person since then.
His parents' relationship fell apart, and Jose ended up moving to live with his mom in Pompano Beach. As a single mother working hard to provide for Jahese, Cleopatra struggled to balance her job and raising him. With her working long hours, Jahese was often cared for by babysitters or his grandmother. Despite her best efforts, Jahese started feeling neglected and lonely. He craved attention from anyone who could give it. Even though he felt abandoned at times, he still loved his mother deeply. Dwayne, his father, although still part of Jahase's life, was often gone because he was in jail for drug crimes. His absence created a bigger gap in Jahase's life, making him feel even more confused and hurt. As he grew, Jahase's need for attention became more obvious. As Jasa entered school, he quickly became known as the outcast. Though he had some friends, his temper and defiance made it difficult for him to thrive socially. He wasn't afraid to stand up for others or himself, but that same fighting spirit often led to violence. By the age of 7, his troubles took a darker turn when his uncle, struggling with depression, tragically took his own life. Jahese was the first to discover the body. This devastating event would only deepen his anger and confusion. By the time he was 14, he was no stranger to fights, drug use, and the instability of his environment. He had already been in trouble with the law multiple times. In 2012, Jahesi was arrested for possession of marijuana and later for breaking into a home to steal laptops. His early encounters with the justice system were just the beginning of what would be a tumultuous path ahead. At just 15 years old, he was sent to juvenile detention and, later, a behavioral correction facility. It was here that he would meet Ski Mask, the slump god, a fellow inmate with whom he formed a close bond and who would become one of his closest collaborators in the music world. They bonded over their shared interest in music, and this marked the beginning of Jay-Sa's musical journey. Stokely would later become a key figure in Jay-Z's life and music career. The two shared a love for rap and would often freestyle together.
We cast it half and I leave them half alive in a basket. And if you're not a savage, come to the madness. Nigga, what you really know about me? Looking like clothes, no clothes. Why you worry about the money I deposit? I'm in the mouth like water, no force. Nigga, what you really know about me? When you like clothes, no clothes. Why you worry about the money I deposit? I'm in the mouth like water, no force. Nigga, what you really know about me? When you like clothes, no clothes. Why you worry about the money I deposit?
It was during these moments that the seed of what would later become Members Only, their music collective, was planted. While locked up, Jahesi also had a reputation for his violent outbursts. He would beat up inmates who dared to challenge him. After his release, JJ was briefly enrolled in a behavioral facility and later returned to high school, where he would encounter even more struggles, including frequent fights and disciplinary issues. However, he found solace in something that would change his life: rap music. His friends, including Stokely, began to inspire him to pursue music seriously as a way to escape his troubled reality. This was when the group Very Rare began to take shape. Jahez, who was going by the name Master Splinter, but later changed it to XX Tentacion after advice from his friends. The X in his name represented the unknown, and Tentacion, Spanish for temptation, added a dark, enigmatic element that resonated with his internal struggles and the aggression he faced growing up. Their first songs were created using basic, low-budget recording equipment, but they were passionate. The group, despite their rough edges, found strength in their music, but the law continued to pursue him. Despite his growing fame in the underground music scene, XXXTentacion's life continued to be marred by criminal activity. In 2015, he was arrested again for robbery and assault, marking another setback in his attempt to turn his life around. By this point, XXXTentacion had already started to gain a following for his music. While behind bars, XXXTentacion's reputation continued to grow. He had already started to gain a following for his music, and the music industry, it saw potential in his raw and unrefined style. But his troubles weren't over. The controversies surrounding his personal life, including domestic violence allegations, began to emerge, but one could have predicted that the same pain that fueled his rise to fame would also lead to his downfall. XXXTentacion's breakthrough came with the release of his song Look at Me in 2016, a track that would put him on the map. But while his music began to chart, his personal life was descending further into chaos. But his fame grew, so did the allegations and legal troubles. The rapper's career was a paradox. His music, filled with raw emotion and pain, resonated deeply with a generation struggling with mental health issues.
His music obviously means so much to so many.
X's music saved my life. For 3 years, this dude helped me get through depression and a bunch of stuff, man.
He became the voice of many young people who felt ignored and misunderstood. But the darkness of his personal life continued to overshadow his career. In 2016, the allegations of robbery and assault continued to haunt him, and he was arrested yet again. This time, he was placed on house arrest, but his troubles only intensified. Although XXXTentacion maintained his innocence, the allegations followed him and added weight to the public's perception of him. His legal issues, along with the beef with other artists like Drake, only made him more controversial. Despite this, XXXTentacion used his platform to speak about his struggles and attempt to turn his life around, even as his past continued to catch up with him. But in October 2017, XXXTentacion was arrested again, this time for witness tampering. This would be the beginning of a long and complicated legal battle that would continue throughout his career. Meanwhile, his music continued to evolve. In March 2018, his album Question Mark dropped, and it debuted at #1 on the charts, marking the beginning of XXXTentacion's true mainstream success. His single Sad had already begun making waves, achieving top 10 success on the charts. But his story, however, was far from over. The mental health issues that had been plaguing X since his early years began to take a stronger hold. Depression and anger were themes that frequently appeared in his music. XXXTentacion made no secret of the battles he fought behind the scenes, using his platform to speak openly about his emotional struggles.
Huge state of paranoia, just due to my past and just the things and the people I've associated myself with previously. I've tried to put myself in a position to ideally be able to motivate others to, for myself to suffice when it comes to this negative, because like, bro, it's like trying to consume me. It's almost like it's trying to get inside of my mind, you know? I apologize for being so distant. I've been paranoid, I've been needing help, and I haven't been getting the ideal help I really want.
But the roller coaster that had become his life was about to take a dark turn. Despite his success, XXXTentacion's involvement in the criminal justice system continued. The charges against him were still pending, and rumors circulated about his involvement in violent altercations and other incidents. As the case continued to unfold, the music world grew more divided over how to view the troubled artist. Many continued to defend him, seeing him as a misunderstood figure. Others pointed to the violent allegations that surrounded him, questioning whether his actions contradicted the very message of peace and understanding he tried to convey through his music. And while he was navigating these stormy waters, XXXTentacion continued to connect with his fans through his social media platforms, sharing his struggles and hoping to inspire others to overcome their challenges. His journey was one of self-destructive tendencies mixed with moments of hope, and it seemed like he was both his own worst enemy and a voice for those who felt unheard. But just as his career was beginning to break through to the mainstream, his situation would take a drastic turn. In the middle of his legal battles and personal chaos, XXXTentacion made a life-changing decision. In June of 2018, he announced that he would take some time away from the limelight to focus on his mental health and spiritual growth. And this announcement was met with mixed reactions. Some saw it as a sign of maturity, while others feared that the artist was retreating due to mounting pressure and controversy. What many didn't expect was how this retreat would redefine his influence.
It's one of those days where you realize nothing matters. One of those days where you feel like driving off a bridge. Am I really quitting? Yes, I'm quitting. I don't know for how long, but I'm just not gonna make music right now. It's just been that my mind's been up. My mind has been somewhere else.
Despite his promises of change, his temper and violent history still loomed over his career, and many continued to wonder if he would ever fully reconcile his past mistakes. Yet, in the eyes of his supporters, the decision to step back showed a level of self-awareness that he had previously lacked. His vulnerability resonated deeply with fans, and his messages of hope, despite his flaws, only seemed to amplify his influence. Meanwhile, his music continued to evolve as he released his third album, Skins, just months before his death. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, cementing his place as one of the most influential artists of the generation. But tragically, this would be the last album to feature the voice of XXXTentacion, as only days later the world would learn of his shocking and untimely death. In the early hours of June 18, 2018, security footage captured XXXTentacion withdrawing a large sum of $50,000 from the bank. Later that afternoon, he was seen entering a motorcycle dealership in Deerfield Beach, Florida, where he had been in the process of purchasing a new bike. In the meantime, another vehicle would be seen. A few minutes later, the same security footage captured a black vehicle slowly entering the parking lot. Seconds after, two men were seen lingering outside the shop, glancing around suspiciously as if making sure no one was watching. Their behavior seemed out of place, as they appeared to be scanning the area before entering the dealership. It was clear that XXXTentacion had no idea who the two men were, as there was no sign of recognition or acknowledgement between them. He continued his business, oblivious to the danger that was rapidly closing in. But one thing became undeniably clear. They were there because of him. The two men had been following him, and their actions were not random. They had one goal in mind. That ordinary afternoon would soon turn into a deadly confrontation. A few minutes after XXXTentacion left the dealership, he was suddenly approached by the two armed men. His companion, a male passenger, was seen quickly exiting the vehicle and sprinting away from the scene. Meanwhile, the two armed men moved toward XXXTentacion, who was still seated in the driver's seat of his vehicle. The confrontation escalated swiftly as they aimed their weapons at him, leaving him with little time to react. These men, with the intention of robbing him, quickly escalated the situation, leading to a tragic turn of events that would change everything. According to reports, one of the armed men forcefully entered XXXTentacion's vehicle, attempting to grab the bag of money he had withdrawn earlier that day. In a violent turn of events, the man shot him multiple times before taking the bag containing the $50,000 in cash. The chaos unfolded in an instant, leaving XXXTentacion helpless in the driver's seat. Witnesses at the scene, horrified by the brutality of the attack, quickly called 911, desperately hoping to get help for the young artist.
We don't need rescue. Don't have a molest the crime scene.
Any pulse?
I'm just having you want me to have rescue stand by?
No pulse.
54 on the pulse.
Nothing. No pulse.
No pulse. That's what I want to going in. Yeah, for a copy.
Yeah, this is going to be the... You think that's newer or older?
Check up page and make a determination.
You guys are good cameras, right?
Go in the door right here. Tell the EMS to make a right.
Looks blue, doesn't it? Yeah, it does, like dark blue.
Done.
Okay, I'll just bury it out. We need some kind of camera footage. Someone get cameras. Bravo 8, updated bolo for the vehicle. It's going to be a dark blue, looks like a dark blue Dodge newer model SUV. Is this yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
There'll be better camera footage.
It doesn't look like it. Here, let me come around that way. I'm just going to put it in park.
Is it in park?
It is now. It was in drive.
Shut it out. Cameras are facing.
Yeah, they're getting it now.
When paramedics arrived, XXXTentacion was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Despite efforts to save him, XXXTentacion was pronounced dead at 3:57 p.m. He was just 20 years old.
X got bro. I think X got bro. I think X got bro. I think X got.
News of his death spread quickly across social media, as fans and celebrities alike expressed their shock and grief. For many, it felt like a senseless tragedy, a young life taken too soon, especially someone whose music had spoken to a generation struggling with depression, anxiety, and anger.
I still don't understand what he means by expired.
For many, the tragedy left an urgent search for answers. In the hours and days following XXXTentacion's murder, law enforcement moved quickly to identify the suspects and investigate the crime. The police immediately began canvassing the area for evidence and reviewing surveillance footage from nearby businesses and traffic cameras. The footage provided crucial evidence showing the suspects approaching XXXTentacion's vehicle and the violent robbery that followed. As it turned out, the suspects were not random opportunists. They had been aware of XXXTentacion's wealth and sought to take advantage of the cash he was carrying. Their plan to rob the rapper quickly escalated into a deadly altercation. The police were able to clearly identify the getaway vehicle, and the hunt for the suspects began. The investigation, led by the Broward County Sheriff's Office, soon zeroed in on several suspects. The case was under intense scrutiny, as the public demanded answers about why such a young artist had been murdered in cold blood. The hunt for justice began, with police conducting a massive manhunt to find the individuals responsible. With the pressure mounting and the public demanding justice, every lead became vital. In the weeks that followed, the Broward County Sheriff's Office pieced together a timeline of events, identifying the two men involved as Michael Boatwright, 27, and Trayvon Newsham, 24. Both had a history of criminal activity and were already known to law enforcement. Boatwright had a criminal record that included a previous conviction for armed robbery, while Newsham had a history of robbery and theft offenses. But it wasn't until someone came forward that the investigation took a critical turn. Robert Allen, a friend of the suspects, came forward. He had been with the suspects on the day of the murder, initially tried to distance himself from the crime, but as the investigation progressed, he became a key witness. He eventually struck a deal with prosecutors and agreed to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence. In his testimony, he revealed that the murder was a planned robbery. Robert confirmed that he, Michael, and Trayvon had targeted XXXTentacion after learning that he had a large amount of cash on him. Robert Allen's testimony played a pivotal role in the investigation. His account of the crime helped authorities piece together what happened in the minutes leading up to the shooting. According to Robert, the plan was for them to rob XXXTentacion as he left the motorcycle dealership. Michael and Trayvon, armed with firearms, approached the rapper's vehicle. They ambushed him in the car, shot him, and then took the bag of cash. Robert testified that he had been with the two suspects earlier that day, but had remained in the getaway vehicle during the robbery itself. He also mentioned a fourth accomplice, Dedrick Williams. While Robert's testimony was crucial in linking the suspects to the crime, it also painted a chilling picture of their cold-bloodedness. He confirmed that they had no regard for human life and had been willing to kill to get what they wanted. After Robert's testimony, the police were able to quickly locate Dedrick Williams, Michael Boatwright, and Trayvon Newsham. All three men were arrested on charges of first-degree murder, armed robbery, and armed burglary. Trayvon was captured after a series of high-speed chases with law enforcement, while Michael was apprehended without incident. The arrests marked a major turning point in the case, but the investigation was far from over. Authorities had to figure out how the suspects were connected to each other and what led them to target XXXTentacion specifically. Evidence suggested that the robbery was not a spur-of-the-moment decision, but a premeditated attack. As the case moved forward, prosecutors worked tirelessly to build a case against Dedrick, Michael, and Trayvon. The evidence, including Robert's testimony, surveillance footage, and forensic evidence, was strong, but the defense teams for the suspects attempted to cast doubt on the validity of the case. They argued that the prosecution's case was based on unreliable witness testimony and circumstantial evidence. But the prosecution's strategy took an unexpected turn. Despite these challenges, the prosecution pushed forward with the case. In a surprising move, Robert Allen, the key witness, was offered a plea deal. In exchange for his testimony, Robert agreed to plead guilty to second-degree murder and armed robbery. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison, though he would later serve a reduced sentence as part of his cooperation with law enforcement. In the end, Dedrick Williams, Michael Boatwright, and Trayvon Newsham were all convicted of first-degree murder and armed robbery. They were each sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The jury's verdict brought some measure of justice to XXXTentacion's family, though it could never bring him back. While Robert's decision to testify against his former friends helped secure convictions, it also sparked controversy. Many questioned the fairness of the plea deal and whether Robert's testimony was credible, given his own criminal past. Some felt that Robert had been given a light sentence in exchange for his cooperation, while others argued that his actions had ultimately helped bring the truth to light. Despite these concerns, Robert's testimony was instrumental in securing justice for XXXTentacion. His willingness to cooperate with law enforcement allowed the case to move forward, and his testimony provided vital insight into the planning and execution of the robbery. But as the case was heading toward a resolution, the legacy of the singer began to unfold in new ways. His music, initially associated with a rebellious underground movement, began to gain mainstream recognition. XXXTentacion's fans, known for their dedication, became a vocal force in pushing for social change, often rallying around the artist's personal battles, which he shared openly in his music. Despite his musical success, XXXTentacion's personal life had been tumultuous. He faced multiple charges throughout his career, but even in the wake of these allegations, many of his fans believed that XXXTentacion was trying to reform. In fact, after his death, the public saw a different side of him, a side that had begun working on changing his life for the better. XXXTentacion had used his platform to speak out against abuse and violence, even donating significant sums to charity to help those in need. His family and close friends had also noted that in the months leading up to his death, he had expressed his desire to help the youth and prevent them from making the same mistakes he had. As his legacy continued to grow posthumously, XXXTentacion's estate worked with record labels to release his music. In 2018, Skins, his first posthumous album, was released, followed by Bad Vibes Forever in 2019. These albums continued to showcase his unique talent and solidified his place as a key figure in the SoundCloud rap movement. Despite his death, his influence was still strongly felt in the hip-hop community, and his music still resonates with millions of fans around the world. The response to XXXTentacion's murder was overwhelming. Fans around the world, from the US to Europe and beyond, showed an outpouring of love and support for the late rapper. Tributes flooded social media, and memorials were held in various cities. Fans and artists alike used their platforms to remember the artist, and his music continued to have a profound impact on young people, especially those who identified with his struggles. XXXTentacion's legacy also spurred conversations about the intersection of mental health and violence, with many calling for a more compassionate approach to addressing the mental health crises in communities, particularly in the rapper and hip-hop world. His tragic end prompted conversations about how society could help support young people, especially those battling inner turmoil. At the funeral, his fans mourned the loss of an artist who had been more than just a rapper to them. He had been their voice, their outlet, and their savior. His death was a reminder of how fleeting life can be, especially for those who are caught in a cycle of violence, mental illness, and legal struggles. As we remember XXXTentacion, we are reminded of how complex his life was. From a troubled childhood to a rise to fame filled with controversy, he struggled with issues that many people can relate to. His story is a reminder that even the brightest stars can burn out too soon. XXXTentacion may have been controversial during his life, but his legacy is still alive through his music and the impact he had on his fans. What do you think about it? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.